Hey friends, what's up? So, in the spirit of it being the last month of 2020, and also the 1 year anniversary of me having a YouTube channel, I thought that I would do not quite a reaction video, but check in with y'all about some of the things that I talked about in that video and see if I still feel the same way. This is going to be a let's chat video, so I'm going to be putting on some makeup, but this is take 2, so I already put on my concealer and did my eyebrows, which I might have to make some amendments to. So let's jump in. I recently, I think like this past week before work, listened back to my first YouTube video. And in listening to it, let me actually get started. The first thought that I had really and truly was just like, wow, you know, I'm sentimental, and so I put on the same shirt. My glasses look the same, but those are, believe it or not, they are actually a different pair of glasses. They're a different frame and also different prescription. But I'm nothing if not consistent. So, other than that though, like in watching that video, I don't know if I had the same earrings. Again, consistent. But like clearly my surroundings are different. Also, I didn't realize how short my hair was. Like, anyways, in watching that video and then also kind of skimming through the others, I was there when I made them, so I know what they were about without watching them over. But what stood out to me the most in that particular video was that because of where I was at the time, I knew intuitively, instinctively, whatever, that I had changes to make, but I didn't know what they were. But I was at a point where I felt like I'm outgrowing myself. And I knew intuitively that something about being 25 was going to be just different. So I guess what brush is this? It's the wrong one. What I will say is what stood out to me the most was that I'm extremely proud of myself for realizing I'm not happy and doing my very best to try and change that. I do think that being happy is not something that's permanent. And also I do think, you know, if you're a psychologist, check me. But I do also think that being happy is, how do I explain it? More of like a reflection or a state of being than it is like an emotion. So with that said, I feel like I knew in my heart of hearts, I am not happy. I am not happy with who I am, how I feel about myself, who I'm with, where I live, just so many different things. And I will say, when I made my first video, I don't think I knew that so clearly. But what I mean by happiness not being an emotion also for myself is like always, the makeup's done. What I knew was this isn't it. And I've spent the past few weeks really reflecting on just how every single thing in my life that I can control, it feels like, because I know, again, said this before, that locus of control is very small, but of what I can control, you know what? Let's get wild and put on mascara. I don't know which will go up first, this, or I'm thinking of doing a 2020 favorite. And we'll talk about mascara more in that one. But just so many things changed in and out of my control. And alongside that, something I've really been thinking about and also thought about for this video is the fact that grief is very clarifying. It is, and maybe not grief, maybe it's death itself, like the permanence and finality of it is very clarifying, you know, like in terms of like, what am I doing? What does this mean? Whatever. Like realizing that things are temporary and can always be changed. Some things makes making decisions a lot less scary, or at least that's how I feel. So yeah, like I just, in the beginning of this year, well, let me back up. When I made my first video, like I said in that video, I'd gotten to a point of I'm doing everything for appearances. You know, I'm doing things because, not even because anybody's pressuring me, but because I'm pressuring myself to live and be a certain way. And since I got all of the things that I wanted, do I want any of this shit? You know, I felt like I had to check off all these different types of boxes. Then no one, I also realized no one really cares. Everyone's caught up doing their own thing. So I really, in the first couple months of 2020, laid, I'm not sure right now, but I will say I tried in the first couple months, like 6 months of this year, to give myself a new foundation for what will hopefully be just an extended chapter. You know, I think I moved to North Carolina right after college. That door closed. I wasn't gonna go back to where I went to college. So I moved somewhere totally new and just felt like I did as much as I could here with what I had. And also knew a really big part of that chapter was I was staying there because of someone. And once that was out the door, or out the window, I was like, I'm out. And I really do think now that I'm 25, I'm in my mid-20s, most, if not all of my friends, if you're under 25, that's not to say we're not friends, that just means that I'm forgetful. But I'll say as a general statement, most of my friends are in their mid-20s now, if not late. And it's like as soon, one of my friends turned 25 within the past couple months, and I said to her, me and another friend said to her on her birthday, girl, once you hit your mid-20s, you really start to look at yourself and be like, yo, am I going to stay who I am now and keep the same flaws that I have? How much of that is permanent, and how much of that do I have the agency to change? And so I really feel like for most of last year, the thought processes that I were having were so, like, I was just like, it was just everything. Like, in me saying, like, I changed as much as I had control over. Just imagine the opposite of that and just feeling like, oh my, like it's everything, you know, every single thing around me I need to change. So I think, for one, I had no intentions of moving back to the tri-state, least of all moving home, like literally into the same house with my family ever again. And it wasn't until my grandpa suggested it that I was like, you know, and once he passed away, then I was like, this is important. You know, I know from living in different places at this point, well, at this point I've only lived in 3 states, but New York, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and then back to New York. You can always leave, you know. In me talking about a chapter closing, there will be others. I saw something on Instagram yesterday that someone had said something along the lines of, folks don't often talk about that in this lifetime you will lead 1,000 lives. And I think the point that I was at, approaching the end of my early 20s, was feeling like, okay, I checked all the boxes. You know, I lived on my own, I graduated college, tried out different jobs. I thought I was doing well financially. I thought I was, and I knew I wasn't, which is a weird spot to be in. And I did say at the end of that first video, I rebuke being broke, and damn it, I have really tried to this year. But I figured in moving, that makes everything change anyways, you know. Obviously we're all living through 2020 at the same time, and so I won't go on too much about the pandemic, but yeah, I'm only gonna focus on, you know, my personal life. And fortunately, like, I haven't been ill, and many people close to me, most people close to me, haven't been ill with COVID. So, you know, I'm not being willfully ignorant or anything like that. But and really, like, I've had to put thought into that, because there are times where I feel like, oh, I'm so out of control of my life because this goddamn pandemic. And then I'm like, some aspects I didn't plan for, you know, but like I was still able to change the things that I wanted to. I kind of just confused myself. So let me just put a bookend on this idea of living different lives and also moving. That basically 2019 wasn't it. I learned from 2019 and 2020 being back to back as numbers are. It's not useful to talk definitively or use definitive statements like worst year, because hey, but 2019 was rough and made me realize, like, okay, something's got to give. And then 2020 thus far has, well, excuse me, I'm saying thus far, it's almost over. 2020 reminds me of another Instagram quote that I saw that said, not all positive change feels positive. You know, I could just riddle off a bunch of quotes that I've been seeing lately that really resonated. So the last one that I will say for now also is, just because it could have been different doesn't mean it would have been better. And I've thought that as far as really missing what feels like a past life. You know, I miss my cat, I miss my apartment, just different things that I had a year and a half ago, different things that I had a year ago, and I wasn't happy then, but I felt different. Me feeling positive was different than me feeling positive now. Like now I fundamentally know, like, no, I made the best choice for myself. There aren't right choices. I've said that many times, but I think I made the best choice for myself. And that's hard. That's really hard. So to kind of switch gears a little bit, something also was really big in that first video was about employment, because we live in a capitalist society. So what you do to make money and make profit is important. And at the time, that was one of the things that really set it off for me, that I was like, oh, boo-boo, I'm out. Was I couldn't find a job that felt fulfilling. And I talked a lot in that video about stability being really important to me. And again, there's a difference between thinking, knowing, and feeling. Sometimes they're all related, obviously, but I thought I was stable. I knew I wasn't, and I felt like I wasn't. But I told myself, like, oh, I'm good. And I've said many times, like, teaching is not just a job, but just for a moment to think about, like, some of the security that comes with teaching. That was something that I really needed. You know, teaching has provided me a sense of stability that I've never had before on my own as an independent adult, and gave me something that I really needed at the point that I was at, even as recently as last year. Insofar as, like, I have a set schedule, I have benefits, I have a salary, a consistent salary. You know, for the foreseeable future, the school that I'm working at is not going anywhere. There's not a time limit on my position. You know, my first full-time job was a fellowship, so I was kind of left scrambling. You know, I have a position and have the opportunity to this might be it for real. It might be, I don't know. And also in terms of stability, which is something that I'm kind of like, this is hard, is, you know, also being back in school, which that I did not plan for. Child, what? That was a bonus. But that's also stability, you know, is getting extra qualifications for something. That's stability. Or we're told it's stability. It might not actually be, because there's plenty of people out here with 11 degrees having a hard time. So, you know, it gives the feeling of security to also be in school. In terms of, besides just like jobs being salary and benefits, I've really struggled as a first year teacher. I made a day in the life video and like did the whole thing. Like I actually recorded what ended up being like over 12 hours of a work day. I think it ended up being like a 14-hour day, and edited the whole thing. I'm amazed that I even committed to recording on a day like that, but I really wanted to show what it was like being a first year teacher during COVID, and watched it back and was like, this seems so negative. And in watching that, I really had to think to myself, like, how do I really feel? And I will say that that's something that I think making all of these changes, that one of the bigger ones is also being single after being in a 2 year and some change relationship, and like at one point being engaged, actually only having to focus on my feelings for a little, like, not that I don't care about anybody, but you know what I mean. I'm able now to really think to myself, like, how do I feel, and not have to share that too much with anyone. So, you know, in thinking that, it really, just to be transparent, made me think, did I make the wrong choice? Like, am I not pleased with this decision to become a teacher? And what I will say, that I say to myself often, is everything's hard the first time. And that's something that I come back to a lot with my job, is everything's hard the first time you're doing it. Everything's difficult when it's new, and especially, you know, as somebody that grew up like doing really well, excelled a lot in school, and feeling like, oh, everything's gonna be easy. Like learning self-compassion when doing something new and not acing it the first time is definitely new. But I will say, in the context of my first YouTube video and then this one, teaching is one of the things, of which there are several, but teaching is one of the things that gives me the fire that I knew I needed. I knew for a fact, like, there is a fire in me that is not lit with the situation I was in before. You know, I feel stifled. And even in the past few months, like my friends have even said that to me. They're like, you've come back to life. You are ambitious and you're being ambitious again. I am starting to envision growth. I don't know at work the last time that I was like, I will grow here. I will grow. I have something to offer. And I feel my own impact. I'm aware of my own impact. It just makes me think of like one of my students on Thanksgiving had sent me a text and was like, happy Thanksgiving. I was like, oh, thanks. And she was like, I'm really thankful to have a teacher like you. And for all that this year was, and the last year as well, for those moments of a kid saying to me, like, I'm really thankful to have you, or a kid being excited to come to a club, or, you know, them being like, oh, it's just you teaching today? Cool. You know, that's what I needed. You know, when I made that video last year, just for context, like I had quit my job because I didn't know how long I would be at home, you know, after my grandpa had died. I didn't know, like, if I didn't have a plan. Like, I bought a one-way ticket to New York and quit my job and had a suitcase, you know, and, you know, had talked to my partner about, like, can you drive up so I'll have my car here? Like, at that moment was just like, I need to be at home. But with that, like, nothing was keeping me where I was. My days were just open because I wasn't working. That's part of why I threw myself into YouTube, was because I really do think editing is fun. I like watching videos. I like making videos. You know, and I was just bored. Like, really and truly, I was bored, is a simple way of putting it, when it comes to at least, like, not even fulfillment in terms of, like, am I on the right path? Like, am I working to my best potential? No, just like on a daily basis, what does my schedule look like? Nothing. I just wasn't doing a whole lot. And now it's the opposite. Like I said, I have 14-hour days, sometimes the days that I have class. And while that's hard, both are difficult. I think I'm better suited for one than the other. What else? Oh, I want to cover up this tattoo now. Like, now that I live back in New York. Tacky. I just feel like, do you have to growl? Like, sorry if you're listening to this on headphones, but at this point, like, this video is either gonna go up with October playing in the background or it's not, and I'd rather it did and in a timely fashion. What else have I talked about in my videos? In the past year, I've really had to make choices that were solely for myself. And after years of just not putting myself first, like worrying about other people's growth over my own, protecting friends instead of myself from them, like just different weird stuff, you know. This past year has really been an uphill battle that I know is leading me in the right direction. I would be leaving out a really big part of the past year, though, if I didn't also mention the fact that I lost my sister and grandfather. And that has also given me a lot of pause and insight into who I am, what's important to me, what did I learn from them, what were their goals for me, how can I carry myself in a way that they would be proud of, etc. And there have been a few times this year that I've found myself trying to channel my sister's spirit because I've had to boss up a couple times, which goes in line also with having to like choose myself, is just being in situations where in the past I would have been like, look, how do I fix this for you? And instead getting to a point of being like, fix it. So in conclusion, there's been a lot of L's. And again, talking only about my personal life that I have control over, that being, you know, relationships, work, money, some health stuff, whatever, like things that I can control. Because obviously, like, I could make a whole separate video about death in 2020 in my own life. And I was worried that this video would be a little too melancholy, but I think it turned out fine. But for that one aspect, if I can separate the two, I think that it's been a wild ride. And because of the pandemic, it's also been a lesson in relinquishing control. Like, there's stuff in those things that I talked about, those, you know, things that I supposedly have control over, that are so big and important, that are just open-ended, that aren't up to me, and that's stressful. But yeah, I've lost a lot, gained a lot, changed a lot, and really I feel like just grew up, just really had to grow up. It's been a great year with y'all and getting your feedback on videos and having this journey kind of be together, because people have multiple times said that they want stuff like this, like they don't care about beauty and stuff. So I thank you all for coming along on this journey. Another thing that I will say is that from being single and really just getting clarity of mind and realizing like, oh, there are a lot of people in my life, not just one. You know, I'm very grateful for the people that I have, and for the people I don't have anymore for different reasons. But it's been a wild ride, and I can't even tell you where I'll be in December 2021. I have no idea, but I'll see you all there.